Hello. I thought I would talk quickly on Canberra ACT's Witness Protection Program equivalent, which is if you are an individual in possession of testimonial information that may stand to incriminate further or incriminate a capitalist inbreeder and his sidekick. There are plenty of things that the magistrate's court here will tolerate in regard to ensuring your safety and social security. One is that they will stand back as your relatives die and permit you to be diagnosed insane due to the effects of video. Then they will frisk you, though not having been raised by male. Have any male guardianship relative to your statutory rights, and frisk you in a watch house without having in front of cameras, without having detracted, apologized, or attempted to compensate you for the errancy of diagnosing you as insane due to video, tell you are to stay overnight in a watch house, and detain you in a room with 2 cameras on you at all times, and after touching both your balls, ask you the question, and I'll repeat it word for word. The question is, do you want privacy in the watch house? So, diagnose you insane due to a video, put you in a room with 2 cameras on you at all times, and ask you, do you want privacy in a watch house? Now, I would say something more should be done. The AFP proving my every point that biphobia, that they would say, well, we're an institution that are proud of being inbred and we're into biphobic murder because of it. To uphold and sustain it, we will practice complicity, if not conspiracy, in biphobic killings. So, if they have a bisexual in their custody and are frisking them, they will ask, after having you stripped down to 1 pair of pocketless boxer shorts, kick 1 leg up to the left like this, and they'll cup the left nut, cup the left testicle, and then they'll have you kick the right leg out sideways like this. And then the all-male officer will cup the right nut before saying, now, do you want to go and have your privacy in a 2-camera decked out watch house? When you thought that the question, do you want privacy in a watch house, were oxymoronic enough, I said, you must be the really, really Christian one. Anyway, there should be if you're in a community whose non-existence is celebrated by the religion of the police officers, then those police officers should be prohibited by magistrates to go anywhere near you. But we'll see what the magistrates say about that. I'll keep you posted. Ta-ta! My argument is simply that if you are a part of a community that the believers, that Bible thumpers don't believe a right to exist, then in their biphobic and inbred by idealism, their equivocation of Bible thumping with corrections will be enough to constitute them to be predatorial towards innocent members of the communities whom, in their Bible thumpiness, they deem unfit to exist without the imposed by force aids of Christian reform. Which is why a book starting out with the perfection of the first offspring of the first man and woman, killing his brother, leaving the question, well, who do they fucking make babies with? Cain the son and Adam the father impregnating Eve to make more inbreds. Some do not answer that we will believe in kind with this. And so those that do and assert it and call it perfect, if you make them law enforcement officers, what stops them from being unjust predators towards any community that's marginalized, not to be right to exist in accordance with the mandates of the Bible? What is your answer to that? So in the previous video, what I will put to you, and it could be subpoenaed that we get the tape, it was a taller than me police officer. He'll have on his mind thoughts of wanting human sacrifice routine played out for something. That's demonstrated if he asks. It's demonstrated that it's on his mind but concealed if he asks for you to lift your legs up from one side to the other as if you're not on a cross, as he cups your balls as if it were concealed behind a loincloth. So what's on his mind is the crucifixion process being applied to you. And if you're in any of these marginalized communities and you're correctional, there's no correctional agency for you to contact because they pose a threat to you, then you're in an emergency situation because of them. And yet, what I'm supposed to be appearing on magistrate court summons for a hearing about is misuse of the 000 service. And this is at the judgment of what my false assumption that the inbred department's relaying you to the more emergency level of police response is that perhaps you might have the good fortune to find yourself conversing with an officer who is not a pro-inbred biphobe. Well, then I submit that they need to state to the public they're a Christian Bible-thumping organization, and that non-believers and members of any non-Christian or non-religious community therefore stands to be put at an emergency status for not being Christian, and can therefore not call or contact the Australian Federal Police in Canberra under any circumstances. But the onus is on them to tell us. It shouldn't be for us to discover that the only book you're allowed to read in their facilities is the feral fucking Bible. You know, I insist you make up your minds, Christian. I insist you go think about it a little bit longer, piggers. Roger made up his mind quite some time ago. So, in essence, there's two key points to remember regarding this Christian cop frisking business. I would encourage you not to let them try and say either to you or tolerate them saying around you, he thinks he's Jesus, she thinks Jesus. The former entails them making either a derogatory statement about abduction. No one really organizes their own abduction or kidnap. It goes against the principle of the definition of the word kidnap to go, well, Jesus had himself kidnapped at ransom. Or they're making a supernatural claim on your behalf if they say that you think you're Jesus, and which they may do for psychiatric interests if they're invested in the Freemasons or owned by the Freemasons. But to say he or she thinks he or she is Jesus is in the context of humanism, an offensive, a pejorative. As for the frisking, the loincloth is the only place that doesn't indicate shame in the mind of a Christian. So they know that the crown of thorns is a mark of shame. They know the nailing and the wrists and feet are both marks of shame. Where they're confused in their inbred heads is that the loincloth does not indicate shame. It contradicts. In fact, even the redemption story going back to the garden of incest is perfection that they all hold so dear. They were wearing leaves then to conceal their shame. So it's a visual contradiction in a Christian's mind. So that they would frisk you while having you assume a bodily position that's contradictory to the crucified Christ in the back of their mind, lifting up one leg. And this can be while you're wearing just satin pocketless boxer shorts. And then they'll cup the left nut, and then they'll have you lift up your right leg, and they'll cup the right testicle. And it's all because in the back of the Christian's mind they're thinking, well, there's not shame to be found here. There's not shame to be found here. But it should really be a sex offense. I'm saying that they're more than equipped to have the tech to determine if your person, and this is after you've taken your pants off, your shorts off with pockets, your wallet and keys out. After they confiscate your meds and don't give you your meds during your entire overnight stay. So they actually practice the equivalent of a doctor's practicing malpractice after touching your nuts. Because in their Christian head, and this is why I asked on the way out, I was like, well, do you eat Jesus biscuits on Sundays? And the guy was like, yes I do. What's it to you? I'm like, yeah. So, and then he goes on to do this. So if they know, and you obviously know that there's all forms of detecting equipment that would be cheap, easily distributable, and ensure non-contact, minimize contact situations between citizens and police. That a policeman who will then go home and fuck himself or his wife and go, oh Jesus, oh Christ, will enjoy cupping your balls, despite the fact that he knows you're wearing nothing but pocketless silk shorts that couldn't hold really anything. And that's how the Australian the Australian Freemason police operate. Probably we have a Religious Discrimination Act, and the issues would have been raised more severely. I would suspect that they're on Freemason-owned land, because Freemasons like to use Christianity and Christians as what's the term? Anyway, for purpose of guys.